With the movie Straw going absolutely viral, I thought we should cover a classic of a bank robbery by four beautiful black women called Set It Off. At a Los Angeles bank, Pan Pacific, bank teller Frankie recognizes that the next person in line is Darnell, a guy from her neighborhood. When it's his turn, Darnell discreetly points a gun at her and demands that she empty the drawer. Frankie refuses and begs him not to do it, as she doesn't want to be involved in a robbery. Darnell and his two accomplices, BB and Lorenz, order everyone to get on the floor. Is BB short for Big Back? Darnell shoots a poor white lady in the head in front of Frankie, who then freezes in horror, prompting another teller to fill their bag with money. The bank's security guards engage in a shootout, resulting in BB's death. Lorenz leaves unscathed, and just as Darnell is about to leave, his Oz gets shot dead. In the presence of the bank's boss, Mr. Zachary, Detective Strode asks Frankie why she didn't follow their robbery procedure. Frankie tells him that she was about to, but then Darnell shot the client in front of her. Mr. Zachary fires Frankie because she knew Darnell, fearing that she might be in collusion with him. Now that's racist. Deeply offended, Frankie tells him that it's not her fault that she knows him, and reminds him that she's a dedicated employee who almost died during the robbery. As she leaves, Frankie says the blonde sister is not like us, and Strode concludes that she's involved, falsely implicating her as the inside accomplice, and asks to have everything they have on her. Frankie has three best friends: Stoney, who has stepped up as a parent to her brother Stevie after their parents died. And yes, that bad wig is on purpose for their wig party. There's also Cleo and Titi, who has a young son named Jawan. Stoney, Cleo, and Titi work at Luther's janitorial services, where their boss, Luther, disrespects them and pays them so little. They all about to have their last straw because of him. As the police review the bank's CCTV footage, Strode orders his team to gather all available information on Lorenz. Detective Waller points out that Lorenz's hair is shaved to form the letters AP. Cleo informs Stoney, Frankie, and TT that Lorenz got away with 20 grand and suggests that they should rob a bank too, sparking laughter from the three. Stoney says 20 grand will be a huge help for Stevie's college tuition, but they're not crazy crackheads like Darnell to do such things. When Frankie expresses her frustration about the bank not giving her a recommendation for another job, Stoney suggests working at Luther's in the meantime because she needs a job. A man named Nate tries to offer Stoney a job at his car dealership. However, he makes a pass at her, saying he'd give her extra money if she does him a favor. So she agrees to the entanglement, but she ain't proud about it, even showering his old man stink afterwards. Later, they have their first shift with Frankie, who absolutely hates the job. Cleo even criticizes white people's ugly babies. Then they hang out and wish for a higher pay, prompting Frankie to suggest robbing a bank, saying it's the only way to get good money. Cleo agrees, but Stoney and TT don't take it seriously. Afterwards, Stoney gives money to Stevie to pay for his UCLA tuition. However, he admits that he lied, and Stoney realizes she had shriveled up eggplant inside her for nothing, causing her to crash out. Then Stevie goes to Lorenz's apartment, where the armed Lorenz carefully answers the door, paranoid that the cops will find him. When Stevie mentions the robbery, Lorenz denies it. Lorenz gives Stevie a bottle of champagne as a graduation gift, which Stevie puts inside his jacket. When Stevie compliments the AP design on Lorenz's hair, Lorenz asks the one who did his hair to give Stevie the same hairstyle. Shortly after leaving Lorenz's unit, Stevie is surrounded by the police who have been hiding and waiting in the area. The confused and frightened Stevie gets down on the ground like he's told. But when he takes the champagne out of his jacket, the police assume he has a gun, so they murder him. Strode checks on him and, realizing they got the wrong guy, asks for an ambulance and a medic, but Stevie dies in his arms. His team raids Lorenz's apartment and engages in a shootout with Lorenz, who ends up dying. Stoney arrives and Strode sees her crying and screaming in pain as she hugs Stevie's corpse. The morning after, Strode talks to Stoney, who then launches at him, prompting Cleo, TT, and Frankie to pull her away. After the women leave, Waller informs Strode that Stevie had no priors, was a good student, and was headed to college. She adds that their parents were both killed in a car accident 4 years ago, making Strode guiltier. At night, Frankie suggests robbing banks again, saying they're just going to take away from the system that's mistreating them. Stoney, who's drowning in pain, agrees, but TT, the black Candace Owens, refuses to join, worried about Jawan. The following day, Stoney and TT case downtown Federal. There, Stoney is approached by Keith, a manager in corporate banking. When he asks for her number, she refuses to give it, but she accepts his. Since she can't pay for a babysitter, TT brings Jawan with her on their next shift. As the women are cleaning, Jawan plays with cleaning solutions and gets poisoned. Jawan is saved at the hospital, but he is taken by Miss Wells from CPS, who informs TT that they'll look after Jawan until she can prove that she can take care of him. Because of this, TT agrees to join the robbery. Frankie instructs the group on what to do, sharing with them her knowledge about bank protocol and security. They meet up with firearms dealer Black Sam, and Cleo steals a car. Each sporting a Tyler Perry wig and a pair of sunglasses, Frankie, Cleo, and Stoney get ready to rob. Although TT chickens out and leaves, Frankie basically forces the other two to join by going headfirst. They successfully rob the South Los Angeles bank with 12 grand. And just like a true Republican, TT Candace Owens gets their unfair share as well. Strode's team identifies the car reported stolen as the robber's getaway car. While reviewing South LA's CCTV footage, Strode asks Waller about Frankie, but she tells him that she's clean. When he realizes that one of the robbers resembles Stoney, he tells Captain Fredericks that he wants to put a tail on her because it makes sense that she's involved since she's best friends with Frankie. Fredericks declines his request and reminds him that Stevie's death got them bad press. He adds that bringing in Stevie's sister just because she's friends with someone who may be friends with a bank robber will further tarnish their reputation. Meanwhile, Keith and Stoney begin dating. Girls stop robbing and get into an entanglement with that rich man. The friends go over to see Cleo, and they find Cleo scissoring. Stoney only wanted to rob a bank one time, but then Cleo threatens her with a gun. Stoney gives her the Will Smith slap, and the friends fight. Strode tells Stoney himself and sees her getting picked up by Frankie, TT, and Cleo. Upon checking on their backgrounds, he discovers Cleo's prior convictions on car theft and becomes convinced that his hunch is correct. Later, Stoney is convinced to join another robbery because the money she has isn't enough for her to leave town and start a new life. The women rob Balboa Savings and Loan. TT even participates and pretends to be a customer. One guy tries to shoot them, but thankfully TT is a registered Republican and stops him. They have a very subtle getaway when Cleo rams into the bank, and they celebrate with more than $296,000. They plan on continuing to work for Luther like nothing happened and leaving town 3 days after getting Yahuan. Meanwhile, Strode becomes increasingly annoyed that he can't find proof strong enough to implicate them. The women hide their money in an air vent at one of the buildings they clean to keep it safe. They know that once they're tracked, their home will be the first place the police will look into. Keith buys Stoney a dress and takes her as his date to a banking event. Stoney ends up getting her back broken, and I'm sure Will Smith won't mind. Meanwhile, Cleo, Frankie, and TT discover that Luther found their money and fled with it. With the help of Black Sam, they find Luther in a hotel room, doing the nasty with a woman named Alyssa. As they look for the money, Luther points a gun at Cleo, prompting TT to fatally shoot him. Cleo takes Alyssa's ID and threatens to come for her if she talks. Since Alyssa doesn't know where the money is, they have no choice but to leave without it. Strode brings in Cleo to participate in a lineup for the investigation of Luther's murder, but Cleo taps the pocket where she put Alyssa's ID, threatening her, so Alyssa doesn't identify her. When Cleo gets home, she tells Frankie, TT, and Stoney that they're either going to rob another bank then flee or be in jail by the next morning because the cops are already onto them. Frankie suggests robbing Downtown Federal, saying they can easily get $500,000 because it's the biggest bank, and Cleo immediately agrees. When Stoney, who already wants out after learning about Luther's murder, refuses, Cleo calls her out for choosing Keith over them, making her change her mind. TT visits Jahuan, and Wells wishes her luck on her court hearing the next day. Frankie warns the group that nobody has successfully robbed Downtown Federal because the nearest freeway is a mile away, so they have to stick to the plan. They broke Oz, realized they don't got money to pay for food, so they dip so quick. Meanwhile, Strode and Waller inform the higher-ups in Downtown Federal, including Keith, about the 4 female bank robbers. Seeing the robbery footage, Keith recognizes that one of them is Stoney because that Tyler Perry wig wasn't doing shit. The women prepare for the robbery, and Stoney packs with her the dress Keith bought her. En route to Downtown Federal, Stoney calls Keith and asks him to meet her at the restaurant he took her to so he won't be there during the robbery. Stoney, Cleo, and TT rob Downtown Federal, this time with masks, while Frankie waits in their getaway car. Meanwhile, Keith arrives at the restaurant, and Strode and Waller, who have just left Downtown Federal, receive a report about the ongoing robbery, and they immediately turn around and drive back. Cleo orders TT to get more money so they stay a little longer than they planned. By the time they're ready to leave, Strode and Waller have entered the bank. With their guns drawn, Strode and Waller ask the trio to surrender. Strode calls them by their names, prompting the trio to remove their masks. He apologizes to Stoney for Stevie's death, telling her that he understands where she's coming from, and asks them to surrender so that there will be no more killing. Immediately after TT puts down her gun, a bank security guard shoots her, prompting Stoney and Cleo to retaliate. Hearing the shots, Frankie drives to the entrance, and the trio, with Cleo engaging to cover their escape, hop in with the money. As they change cars, TT dies in Stoney's arms. Stoney closes TT's eyes and kisses her, as they have no choice but to leave her corpse. It's such a sad scene, y'all. I cried. Keith returns to the bank and learns about what happened. A chase ensues with multiple police cars and helicopters, and its coverage is reported live on TV, with the reporter identifying all 4 women. Keith, Black Sam, and Cleo's girlfriend Ursula watch the coverage. The police corner them in a tunnel, prompting Cleo to instruct Stoney and Frankie to exit the car, lean up against the wall, and run the opposite way in 60 seconds. She tells them that they have to split up and promises to reunite with them soon. Although she doesn't want to leave, Stoney tearfully hugs Cleo before exiting the car. As Cleo leads the police on a high-speed chase, Stoney and Frankie change their clothes and hug before splitting up, each with a bag of money. When Cleo is cornered, she drives through the police car barricade and engages in a shootout with police, resulting in her death, which absolutely crushes Ursula, her scissoring buddy. Stoney embarks on the bus of a group heading to Mexico. The bus passes by the spot where Strode and his team find Frankie, and Stoney and the other passengers watch Strode asking his team not to shoot, informing Frankie that Cleo is dead and asking her to surrender. Frankie sticks a gun in Strode's neck and reminds him that he was a catalyst for the entire situation. Stoney then tearfully witnesses Frankie taking her last breath after Strode's team guns her down as she's running away. Strode and Stoney's eyes meet, but Strode doesn't inform his team and just lets Stoney leave out of guilt, especially after seeing her in genuine pain again. In Mexico, Stoney mourns the deaths of Stevie and her best friends. She cuts off her hair just like her Oscars look and then calls Keith to inform him that she's safe and to thank him. Keith smiles after she hangs up, glad to know that she's safe. Stoney then drives away with the money she got from the robbery and the dress Keith bought her. Very reminiscent of Straw, but quite different in its own right. This gave me feels all over again, and I remember watching this in the late 90s when growing up. The nostalgia, the perfection. I love this movie. What did you guys think of this one?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.